Hello and welcome to episode 3 of series 5 of Founder Friday. Brilliant to have you both here. Could you please introduce yourselves and let everybody know what you're working on?
Nice. Yeah, I'll go first. So thank you, first of all, so much for having us. It's always really nice to interact with you, Stewart, and the Canopy community. So my name's Roxanne, and I'm the co-founder of both Tech Talk and ResLink. And in a quick nutshell, what Tech Talk does is that we're essentially a career community who help people get jobs in the tech industry. And then off the back of that, essentially off of helping so many job seekers get roles in the job market, we realized that one of the biggest pains that job seekers were having was essentially the human connection and actually getting in touch with hiring managers. Things like the traditional applications just aren't working as much. Like the power of the CV isn't as powerful as it used to be a couple of years ago. And so this actually, off the back of that, we created ResLink, which is a video resume platform or video CV platform for job seekers here in the UK, which is essentially a CV where you can add a video on top of it. It's all in the form of a link, which you can then share with recruiters and hiring managers directly. And like the whole ethos of that is to create more of a human connection between you, the job seeker, and the hiring teams, which increases the conversion of interviews and eventually landing an offer.
And breathe.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. We're just going to say I'm Joana, the other co-founder, but Rox already explained everything. So we're good there.
And how do you two know each other? What's your origin story as a co-founding pair?
We met at uni, actually. So here in London, because I come from Brazil and then Rox also comes from a couple of different places. But yeah, essentially we went to uni together here in London. We did business together and then we met in Mandarin class and then we lived in China together. And yeah, that's when everything started.
In Mandarin class, amazing. Okay, so you guys have got some skills, right? Because when we first met, we met at Web Summit, right? We met at Elizabeth's event at Web Summit, and you were telling me about Tech Talk and the scale that you'd achieved pretty organically, right? So it takes some skills to do Mandarin, it takes some skills to do that as well. What's the growth curve look like at the moment? How far has Tech Talk got to?
We initially started about 2.5 years ago. We were doing it full time with our other job as well, but officially full time in the last year. But I would say that in the past 2.5 years, we were able to grow our following in our community to over 400,000, which is really, really good. And on the back of that, we launched as well a more gated community too, and we have more than 7,000 people inside our proper community. So yeah, we've been growing a lot very quickly, which is great, but it comes with its challenges as well.
And is this the full-time thing for both of you, doing Tech Talk and ResLink, or are you doing something else as well? Can't imagine you've got time for it, but just to check.
Yeah, I think Tech Talk and ResLink is already good for now. Yeah. So just those.
What makes you good co-founding pairs? Like, what are you each strong at that the other one's bad at? How does it fit together for you?
Yeah, I think we're complementary in a lot of ways, to be honest. Well, first, before even the skill sets, I think it's the trust that we have. I think that's really, really big. The fact that we've known each other for so long, I think means that we know each other as people. Like we know what makes each other tick. We know what our motivations are, which I always see that as a bit of a blessing because if I were I think we'd always be able to work together, but if we were to start as co-founders, for example, it'd probably take a little bit longer for us to understand each other. And so probably that means the working relationship wouldn't have been as fruitful as it is now. The fact that we already know each other so well in terms of people, I think that's massive. But in terms of skill sets, Joanna is a marketing genius. She's been doing this for a couple of years now. She's extremely good at it. So even when she was talking about social media growing to 400,000, she's the strategy behind that. I'm just the one that she tells me to execute it. I'm like, okay, it's done. But yeah, she's definitely a marketing genius. She's really, really good at that. She's also very good at, I would say, operational things as well, and processes. On my side, I'm more good at the sales and the commercial. So anything related to partnerships, I handle anything related to, essentially client facing, kind of building relationships. And I would also say good at the strategic thinking. So I'm more the big vision, long-term thinker. Joanna's more the okay, now let's take that vision and what are the things that we need to do, this week, this month, this quarter to actually make that happen. And so, yeah, I think we complement each other pretty well in that sense.
What do you think, Joanna? She got that right?
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I always say this, Rox is the visionary. She knows where we need to go and how we go there, and I'm more like the executioner. So I think like in that sense, we balance each other very well, both on TikTok and ResLink as well. Because on ResLink we have a third founder, and he also complements us very well, because he's a little bit of both, I would say.
I mean, when I first met you, you're both very charismatic people. Like, there's an instant sort of likability quality about you. But I think what I noticed is that you like each other. And I think that's a really nice part of being a co-founder. Like, it's not just a transactional thing, right? You're in a relationship with somebody. It's kind of quite an intimate relationship. You know each other, good, bad, and ugly through different things, and you seem to really like each other as you walk around. I don't know if you're faking it, but you look like you like each other.
No, I mean, it's a good observation. Like, I generally think the trust is like really strong, and like if you really think about it, because we met like in 2016, 2017, so like we met basically 10 years ago, and a lot of our lives, like we've done the first together, right? Like, so the first time leaving home, the first time like living away from family, the first time, well, for me, the first time going to university. For you, Joanna, it was technically the second time, because you already started a bit university in Brazil. But like the first time, for example, living in China, the first time finding our first boyfriends, like the first time going through like so many stages of life, like in parallel, like the first time getting our first job, the first time asking for promotion, asking for a raise. Like there's just a lot of like firsts, especially in our adult life, that we've done like in parallel, and that we've always like been there for each other for. And like going back to like that trust piece, like, yeah, we just know each other quite well. So like even if there's a time, for example, where I don't know, one of us is like in a bad mood or something, like it's never really personal, because we just like, oh, okay, we know how like this person is. So I really do think like that's a big thing, because, you know, I feel like if you don't know the person that well, there's just like a lot of like assumptions, like try to figure out somebody, which doesn't always, like, I think it's just like a little bit of like a distraction of like what it is that you're actually trying to build. And actually Joanna and I have also worked previously on a business together. So like TikTok and ResLink aren't even like the first times that we're working together. Like we previously, before TikTok, we did like an air purifying business for a bit with like a third friend of ours, and like that was kind of our first time working together as like business people. And I think that was also the first time we kind of figured out each other's strengths and like what are our weaknesses, things like that, which like lended itself really well when we built TikTok, because it was just like, oh, we already know each other's like where we stand kind of thing, almost without having to talk about it, because we'd already experienced it. So yeah, I think it's massive.
You're kind of layering up, right? Sort of building on the experiences of each other. That's nice. So, I mean, do either of you have entrepreneurship in your background or in your education or anything?
I do in my family, because my mother, she is an entrepreneur, and she had her own business. She was telling me that she quit her job to do her business the same age that I did. So when she was 20,
amazing,
29. Yeah. So she basically like, I'm following like a very similar path than she did. So I always saw like how like flexible like her life was, and like how she was basically like in control of like what she did and like what are the projects she was working on. So I feel like in the back of my head, I always had that as a reference. And the other side of my family is also very independent, because they're all like doctors, and like when you're a doctor, like a surgeon, you also kind of control your own time. So I think like this notion of like a 9 to 5 and like you being employed and like not having the flexibility was always something that I don't know, I was always like pulling away from. I'm like, I don't know if I like that.
Yeah, on my side, I mean, my family is a bit more like traditional. Like my mom's a teacher. My dad worked in corporate his whole life. However, he always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I think he kind of had the golden handcuffs type of situation, because he always told me like, you know, if I could start over, like I would do a business. And he always told me like, Roxanne, you need to like build a business. Like that's how you should be thinking in life. So like he was always very open to it, I would say. And it was never something to like shy away from. I mean, we also studied international business at school. Not that I necessarily think that's like a skill that makes you an entrepreneur, but like it kind of just shows that we both leaned into it already from the beginning. And like it was always in the back of my mind that one day, you know, I did want to be an entrepreneur. But yeah, like I don't really have any entrepreneurs in my family, apart from like I think people that wanted to be entrepreneurs. So even when I was making the leap going from corporate to full-time, like my dad was like, yeah, go for it, like this is it, like you got to take risks in life, like, you know, like go for it, like you got to take like the hold of like your destiny with your both hands. So like, yeah, definitely very supportive, even though I technically don't have any entrepreneurs in my family.
He sounds amazing. I'd really like to meet him at some point. He sounds brilliant.
He is.
He's got like this cheerleader like on the sidelines for you. That's amazing.
Yeah, he is.
I mean, would you say as female founders that you faced any additional barriers or burdens compared to other founders that you know? Or do you think it's kind of like, it's just difficult doing entrepreneurship?
I don't think, like me personally, like I don't think us being like female founders was something that was like harmful in any way, or like something that made a difference. I think like in our space, we're very lucky to like have a lot of female founders as well. So like we know a lot of businesses where it's either two female founders or like one female founder. So I feel like we are in a space where, yeah, we're surrounded by female founders. So, and like on Tech Talk, for example, like we didn't have to go through like raising, or like we were completely bootstrapped. So that also didn't make that much of an impact. So I think like in my lenses, like it was pretty even out. I don't know, Rox, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, no, I actually agree. Like, I think considering we're like in the careers space, I do think there's a lot of females in here, and I think it's also something we don't like think about too much. Like, I know obviously there's like a lot of stats out there about like the difficulties of fundraising, for example, as a female, or even just like being a female entrepreneur. But I think it's probably something that, yeah, we just try not to ponder on too much, and rather just like focus on like what we can control, which is just like, you know, focusing on the business, focusing on the execution, focusing on the growth. But yeah, I'd be curious. I mean, what do you think, Stu? Like, what have you heard from like other female founders? Are we just a bit delusional in how we think, or what?
Yeah, I mean, like I have a general belief that entrepreneurship is hard, regardless of what background you come from or what gender you are, etc. I've been stunned how many stories I've been told of people's difficulties, some internal and some external. And some of those external ones being the ones that stunned me the most, I think, where I was surprised that in this day and age those kind of problems still existed. But some of the internal ones as well, like people I really respect as founders, literally had crisis of confidence in themselves, and it was very deep rooted in their being as a woman, and sometimes a woman of color. Things like I was told by one of my friends, and she said, you know, I really struggled to raise money because I just didn't feel I was worth it. And I struggled to close the money on it, even though I was being offered it, because the idea was there and everything was going well. But I just couldn't personally bring myself to close the money because I didn't feel inside like I was worth it. And I was like, you know, it stunned me when I was sat with her. I was like, you know, she's an amazing person, really well educated. You know, I love her to bits. So I just couldn't understand how she felt like that about stuff. But then I've got male entrepreneur friends who actually feel similar. So, you know, I just think there's a lot of stuff that we've all got as people that we're carrying around, and sometimes that is emphasized by your gender, and sometimes it's just stuff, right? You just got to get through it.
Yeah, I think you made a good distinction there about like the external and internal. Like, one, I do think industry matters a lot, right? So the fact that we're in careers, like there are a lot more women than, for example, other industries. Like if we were in fintech, it'd be a different story. And I wouldn't be surprised if like our answer was a little bit different. But I do think the internal thing is also like very important, like how many limiting beliefs you have about like yourself, or like about the situation and about what it is that you're actually winning with. But funnily enough, I actually think I had more limiting beliefs when I was in corporate about, for example, being a Black woman in a corporate space, working in like fintech, for example, than I do now. And again, I actually think it's more because of my surroundings, because when I was working in tech, I worked for like 2 fintech companies and just one more like big tech company. And yeah, I was more like the one of few, like, especially when you have like an office of like, you know, 80, 90 people and you're like one of the only Black women. And like just the way that I guess communication happened is different. So like those limiting beliefs, I actually recognize those more while I was in corporate than here. But then again, if you think about who I'm surrounded with now, like I'm surrounded with, you know, my best friend and co-founder who like we're very equal in how we speak to each other and like very similar in how we speak to each other. Like also like, I guess like, again, considering in the career space, like the rooms we step into are wouldn't say male female dominated, but there's more of an equilibrium of female and male in comparison to, for example, if we go to like a payments conference or fintech conference. Actually, funny enough, Joanna and I went to a payments conference like right before I started my last corporate job, which was in payments. And we went to like like one of the biggest competitors or one of the biggest players in the payment space, because Joanna also worked in payments. And like we were the only women, like genuinely one of the few only women there within a room of like hundreds of men. So it's interesting. Like I think like for my case at least, like I had more limiting beliefs before, I think just because of those particular surroundings, and maybe I have in my specific scenario now. Now, again, Joanna also mentioned a good point that like for Tech Talk, we've been bootstrapped. So we haven't actually had to fundraise so far. So like we haven't really put ourselves in that scenario. And to be honest, for ResLink, like it's actually our co-founder in the US who's fundraising, mostly because he's in the US. And so, you know, ticket sizes there are nice and healthy. So like he's kind of leading that part. So even that, we haven't actually been exposed to that much. So yeah, I guess maybe our answer would be different in 5 years, but at least for the now, I think it's not something that I feel holds us back.
Okay, no, fantastic. I mean, I loved it when we met at Elizabeth's event at Web Summit, and that evening you came along to our demo night and kind of got to meet some other folks. And then in London, you came and gave a demo and got your People's Choice Award for ResLink and stuff at City St. George's, which is also amazing. And has anything else happened for you as part of being in Canopy? You know, what do you get out of being in the community? Because we get a lot from knowing you, and like you're incredible role models in the community. So are we adding any value to you yet?
Yeah, I think like some of the relationships have been really helpful and like the feedback. So for example, when we did the pitch night at the Canopy Community, like even just getting the feedback from the judges on like us doing that pitch for the first time, even us just revising that pitch for the first time, I think it was really, really good, like having to say it in like 3 or 5 minutes or something. And then getting those types of questions from the judges and the crowd as well, because they looked at it from an angle that we just never really thought of. Like, I guess us, the 3 co-founders, is obviously our baby. So we think we're poking tons of holes in it. And we're like, yeah, like, look at us. We're challenging ourselves so much. Then you have somebody else who's like looking at it for the first time and they're like, well, how is this going to work? Or like, what is this person going to think about this? So I think that was super valuable in terms of just getting other types of feedback. And like, we made some good connections off the back of that as well. So I think that the network is definitely the valuable part of Canopy.
Okay, fantastic. Joanna, is there anybody special that you've met so far? I don't know if you've had any of the mentoring sessions with Pedro or anything, but is there anybody out there that you remember meeting in Canopy?
I'm not gonna remember by names, but there are a lot of people that we met that were, I mean, even the people that were doing like the pitches with us as well. So like the other people that were pitching. There was someone that we met there that she just won like Forbes as well, 30 under 30, which is like really impressive. So it's just like the caliber of people that like we were meeting and we were talking to. So a lot of interesting people that like we connected on LinkedIn, and Pedro was one of them. We exchanged a bit like last year. So I think is like Rox was saying, like having those different people and having different perspectives of what we're building from people that are building as well. I think that's also like very valuable.
Amazing. Now, we tend to finish these things out by asking, you know, what's your best advice for a first-time founder? But as I promised you before we got here, if there's anything you want to ask me, I'm totally, you know, turn around is fair play in these things. If you want to ask me any question, I'll do my best to answer it.
Yeah, I mean, what do you? Because have you founded a business before? Let me just start with that.
I just founded my 11th, which is the investment fund. So
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so you founded quite a few then. Did you have a favorite out of those 11?
That's like asking me which of my children I like the most. That's impossible, right? Each of them has been a journey. Some have made more money than others. Some have been horrendous failures. I've been a good, bad, and indifferent co-founder in those ones, and I've worked with good, bad, and indifferent. And the relationships are the things that you remember after all the stuff is done. It's like, you know, to be able to go through not just those 11 businesses, but I've actually sat, I think on my LinkedIn, somebody counted out for me the other day, I've done 54 different board positions now. So
wow.
I've kind of had these, I use the word like you do, like it's intimate relationships with people where you're working really hard on really difficult stuff, and you're having to argue with each other and find the best in each other and deal with the worst of each other in all these different settings now. So, 54 different situations where I feel very privileged to have been invited into those rooms or created those rooms myself, and then very privileged to have actually done those journeys. It's kind of special. I started
And
building when I was 26. I'm 53 now. I've been doing this for 27 years. I literally haven't had a proper job in 27 years. It's insane, right? But also one of life's blessings for me to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And
What I was going to just ask, what is your biggest learning from founding 11 businesses?
Well, in the mechanics of doing entrepreneurship, it's like listening to people is like a really super skill. It's not just to be overlooked, right? And Dale Carnegie says it really well. When I was doing the teaching and I had to do a lot more reading, you pick up these things like in one of his original texts, he says if you listen to your customer hard enough, they'll teach you how to sell to them. But ultimately, if you listen to them hard enough, they teach you what they need, right? And then you can actually build it for them. If you keep building what you think is awesome, it's very rare that it actually latches perfectly with the customer, unless you are the customer. So I learned some of those lessons the hard way. I'm an only child, so I have a lot of voices in my head, but I don't necessarily listen to other people's as well as I should. I learned a lot about empathy, and my favorite word in Portuguese is empatia. So it's kind of, that sits in my head a lot, and keep looking for that empathy and those relationships in the boards and relationships with co-founders and relationships with customers. And I learned a lot about myself, like, the business is a mirror on you, right? So what you're good, bad, and indifferent at will be exposed during those businesses and in those critical moments. And I've been taught by my co-founders things about relationships and things which I didn't know before I was in those rooms, and I owe a lot to my first co-founders, who were a husband and wife. And one of the things they taught me was the ability to compromise in a way that internally really hurts but actually creates better value for everybody. So to be able to sit in a room and say, they said it to me first, like, we really don't agree with you, but we can see how absolutely convinced you are. So let's go for it. And we'll throw both boots into that as well. And we'll never tell you I told you so. But if it goes wrong, we'll cry with you. And if it goes well, we'll high five together. And just kind of like stepped into that moment with me. And that's a very special thing to learn.
Yeah, I think
I
like
didn't
the
actually
committing.
realize it at the time. I only knew it like 6 months later. I was like, Jesus, what did they do? It's amazing.
It's like the making a decision and committing together as like a group, I think is huge. Out of those 11 businesses, were there any ones that you were driving like at the same time? And like, what was that balance like? And did the business like marry each other, as in like did one benefit the other, or were they kind of like in different fields? Like, I guess I'm curious because we're doing Tech Talk and ResLink at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you one of the hardest stints of stuff was when I was building incubators. So I built 2 incubators with 2 different teams in 2 different countries simultaneously over 18 months. So that was quite a tough stint. They were both projects of kind of giving impact back to those cities. So one was in Boston and one was in Bangalore. And it's kind of the origin story of Canopy. It's sort of a bit of a flow. But over that 18 months, we basically stood up 2 properties, like physical properties, 2 teams, 2 co-founding teams, the dynamics in 2 different countries, the visas, the sort of microfinancing to get it to work, the promotion, all that stuff. And I was literally like for 18 months flying to Bangalore for a week, then coming back, then flying to Boston for a week, then coming back. And it was the same stuff in 2 different territories with 2 different dynamics of 2 different types of maturity. And at that point, I'd never built an incubator before. So we were kind of like learning everything from new. There was a lot of trust and a lot of like trying to parachute into places and do things over 3 or 4 days and then get back on a plane and go again. So
Yeah,
they're overlapping. Was hard work. Like literally my body clock was so screwed over that period. I literally had no idea what I was doing day or night, because Bangalore is 4.5 hours that way, and then Boston was 5 hours that way. So like I literally was on an international can't sleep, won't sleep for most of that time.
Yeah, that's dedication. Like doing that type of traveling every single week is tough. Like not just mentally, like physically on your body and everything.
Yeah, and they were startup projects as well. So I did all that in coach. Like, I'm 6'6", and I was
Mm.
jamming myself into those coach seats, and I was flying via Dubai because it was cheaper to get to Bangalore, doing it that way, and all that kind of stuff. Like making those choices, and then still doing it for like 4 days on the ground and coming back. But that was what it took to get it done. And it was either that or do it slower, and I wasn't in the mood for doing it slower, so we did it that way. I probably could have done it better if I'd have done it slower, but yeah, you kind of make the choices and you step into it.
Yeah, love that.
Great questions. You got anything else you want to ask me? I'll do my best to answer them.
Have you founded a business by yourself, or were all of them with
Yeah,
co-founders?
I was gonna ask that.
So my first one I started by myself, and then my co-founders came in sort of 6 weeks later. So all the kind of origination was me, and then one in particular, so the husband of the two, he bought into the idea very quickly, and he sort of called me up on a Saturday and said, I'd love to build this with you. He was my biggest skeptic and critic at the start, so I'd given him the first website to review, and he kind of seen what I was trying to achieve, and he had a desire to build stuff as well, and they kind of came in together with their half of the business and matched me with funding and stuff and got on with it. But yeah, the original bit was literally I just set up with my laptop on my bedroom floor and started, and I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't even know how to calculate VAT and stuff. I was just kind of like, let's just go. And I resigned from my consulting job. I was only 26, I hadn't worked for very long, and I literally started the business during my notice period. I just got going.
Do you think it's easier to start a business by yourself or with someone else?
I'm an only child. Of course, I think it's easier to start by myself. That's fine. I mean, one of the peculiarities you get as an only child or I got as an only child, is a mindset that everything starts and finishes with you. So, I don't wait for somebody to tell me what my opinion is. I have an opinion and I might adjust it, but I have an opinion from the start, and I have a desire, and I have a vision, and I have an expectation, and I have rules. And part of what I'm now told is my ADHD is basically I don't do well with other people's rules because I feel they're imposed on me, because I'm used to creating my own rooms, which is why I build businesses rather than work for other people, because they will operate on my operating system, not somebody else's. Right? I literally get angsty when I'm in the presence of rules that I don't agree with, that I can't change. I just can't. I just get fussy, and I just have to move. One of the other pluses, though, is that it's a big self-reliance. So when the pressure's on, you're still just looking to yourself to sort it. And one of the biggest weaknesses is, I've had to learn proper empathy. I've had to really respect how people have tried to teach me and how life has taught me those lessons. And I think I'm going to work on that for a very long time still. Like, it's not a natural, innate talent, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I'm just picturing like when you have like a debate with your co-founders, like what that would look like, considering what you just mentioned.
It can be robust.
Yeah, I love that one. They can be robust.
But what I tend to find is that the people that I'm friends with over the long term are very strong people in themselves, and that they see the way I am as something to meet rather than something that's crushing. And I'm better than I was. I was very arrogant, particularly at the beginning, in terms of the way I dealt with stuff, and I didn't have nuance or how I interpret it for others and stuff. I'm better, but not perfect in that stuff. Yeah,
and I
need equals.
Yeah, I think that's key. And what keeps you going? Because I mean, you'd think after 11 businesses, you can just rest. Just say, like, I'm just gonna travel for the rest of my life now. So yeah, like what keeps you going?
I still have things I want to do. It's in there to get it done. When I run out of vision, then I'll probably stop. Right?
Do you think you'll ever run out of vision? Doesn't sound like it.
I don't know. I'm getting old now, so there's probably not time to run out. Right? This fund is really big for us, and this is actually, like, in speaking to the discussion we've had. Doing the fund is something I can't do without the other two. And we've talked about this together as a three. Like, literally, it falls apart if any one of the three of us don't turn up. So that's really vulnerable for me. That's really difficult. Normally, I'm like, I can do all this stuff, and other people are with me. That's great, but I've got it. This is like, I haven't got it if you two don't show up. So we've verbalized it. We've been really clear with each other that that's the way it is, and for all three of us, it's like that. we have a genuine belief in what we're doing. We're struggling with the administration and some of the things we have to go through to get the fund up and running. And it's literally like in my Americanese, it's a ball ache. It's like, it's really hard to get this stuff to work. And that's not, we believe though in the type of founder we want to support and in the way we want to support them. So we're holding that as the North Star and just letting this stuff sort itself out. But it's, yeah, that's vision, I guess. It's like having that.
Yeah.
We'll see. That's a 10-year journey. So I'll be 63 by the time we finish that, right?
Yeah, true.
All right, well, you've quizzed me enough. I'm gonna let you finish out today. Thank you so much for these brilliant questions. You're gonna have to watch this one back and see what I've said in retrospect. It's sort of really,
you're like, how much?
You're
like, I didn't keep my cards close to my chest enough.
No, you've had the authentic response. Definitely, they were great questions. Appreciate it. So as role models, as people's choice winners, as amazing entrepreneurs in your own right, what is your best advice for a first-time founder who's watching this? What do you think they should be thinking about in their brains or doing in their actions?
I mean, I think it's something that you already spoke about at the beginning, which is, I mean, everything you build, you're building to solve a problem for someone. And if you don't really understand your customer, it's going to be really hard for you to build something on your own assumptions. So I think like at the beginning, and this is something that we did a lot when we started, is like we talked a lot to our customers, even before they were customers, because we're trying to understand what are your pain points, what are things that you're looking for that you're not getting in the market, like where are the gaps that we can fill. And I think a lot of people go on assumptions on what they think people want, as opposed to really doing that research and really talking to people. So I think that is a really big one, which is really understanding your audience. And I think people underestimate that a lot.
Yeah, I think, well, I'm personally very like having a co-founder, because I think it's like really good to basically, I'm very team oriented. So I think it's always nice to basically work with somebody alongside you, and basically just making sure that if you do have a co-founder or a partner, like it doesn't necessarily need to be a co-founder, that you're making sure you're going for complementary skill sets rather than the same skill sets. Because I mean, I have spoken with a couple of co-founders where they tend to have difficulties because they're basically both working on the same thing and like both owning the same thing. And then there's a little bit of clash there because, yeah, I guess each one wants to be the driver of like that same project. So I think just making sure that like you choose your partner very wisely. You don't just choose them because, you know, they're friends or just because, yeah, I don't know, like they're really good at like they have like a certain background or something. But I think definitely being complementary with them is a massive thing. And yeah, I would say that's probably my main one. Also, relying on systems rather than motivation, I think, is another one, because motivation comes and goes by the day, by the week, by the month. But if you have more like systems and processes, you focus more on execution rather than like your intrinsic motivation, which I think you really need as a founder.
Amazing insights, and thank you for being part of the community. Thank you for bringing your story today, and thank you for the amazing energy that you bring into every room that I see you in. It's always phenomenal to see you. You're a pair of people that every time I walk up to you, I find myself intrinsically smiling. I'm kind of like, these two are amazing. It's wonderful to see you again. So thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having us.